Mary here with you today, and I'm sharing how I made a Mother's Day tag using various different products from Lone Crafts. So to get started, I will be using the background stamp called Just For You and the large banner die, the photo elements die, the daisy die, the two branches die, and then the berry branch die. I'm also using watercolor paper from Strathmore, Bristol. It's got a texture to it, and it's perfect for making these watercolor flowers. I've already gone ahead and cut out my flowers and my leaves. And I'm just going to start mushing down my Distress Oxide inks onto my mat. The colors that I used were Blueprint Sketch and Picked Raspberry. I'm using this black mat. Normally I would use a glass mat, but there was so much reflection in the video that I switched over for you. Hope it works better. So again, I'm just smashing these down into the ink. As we know, pink and blue make a really pretty purple combination. And but I want this to be a little bit more pink heavy, so I'm going to go back and put more of the Picked Raspberry down. And I also like where there are different pieces of the die cut that are not colored. So there's kind of white blotchy areas that show through. I think that helps give it that watercolor look that I'm going for. And just going back, and I'll continue to smush these into the ink. And when it gets a little too blended, I will wipe everything up and start over again. So more of the Picked Raspberry and a little bit of the blue this time. And adding the water. And doing lots of pink on this one and a little bit more blue. And that is my favorite combination right there. Love the way that one turned out. But as you can see, each one has its own look, which I think is really cool. And I think this is the last one for this pass through. Again, I'm going to wipe everything up and see if I can't go back in and add a little bit more pink with the Picked Raspberry. So I'll wipe everything up and then just smash down some more of the ink, a little bit of water, and these have dried for just a few minutes, but long enough to get in that variation of color. And these are going to turn out a lot more pink. I just love the pink and purple combinations. I think purple is my favorite color, so that's probably why when they combine together like that, I just love the way it turns out. Okay, I'm going to clean up my mess and then I'm going to move on to the leaves. For that, I will use Rustic Wilderness and a little bit of mustard seed. And this also, I think, makes a really pretty combination of colors. It's got the dark green and then the light green. Really pretty together. Very effective for that watercolor look. And you could use Distress Oxides. You can use Distress Inks, which would be more vibrant in color. The Distress Oxide inks will, when they dry, they will fade a little bit and be a little bit more of a muted color. I think, going back in and adding the second layer of color really helps to make it a little bit more vibrant. But you could also use just watercolor paints as well. But there's nothing really too technical about this, obviously. It's just the old smushing technique. For these colors, I used cracked pistachio and, again, some mustard seed. And I will need to, they're so muted that I'm going to go back in and add some more of the cracked pistachio to get that variation of color. But I honestly think the inks do all the work for you. It's not rocket scientist, and I think it's super easy and anybody can do it. It's just making sure that you have the right paper that can withstand the water that you're putting on there. And I'm going to go back, as I said, and add some more cracked pistachio. In the end, I don't, the part of the leaf that I've added the correct pistachio to doesn't really end up showing up that well. I end up kind of tearing that off to tuck the leaves in behind the flowers. So I'm going to clean up my mess and then do the little centers to my flowers, and I'm strictly using the cracked pistachio for this. If you look at the die cuts, there's different indentations in them from the dies, and it allows the color to kind of settle into those and give it a really nice effect. I know this is tedious, I apologize. And that's it. I'm going to clean up my mess one more time, and then I'll move on to, I used cracked pistachio on the Just For You background stamp. And as I think I mentioned earlier, it's my favorite background stamp. It's so versatile. I can use it for Halloween, I can use it for Easter, I can use it for Christmas, birthdays, anything. It just goes perfectly. I love that pattern. And I'm also using my Misty. You know, sometimes with the larger background stamps, it's hard to get a good impression the first time. So it's nice to be able to do it multiple times. And as you'll see, I will need to do it multiple times. So this will be perfect. And look at that tool that I'm using, my sleeve. We'll do this a couple more times. It does not have to be perfect, but I do want it to have a better impression than it did that first time. So I'll just, as I said, do it a couple more times. And there's a little spot right there that I want to redo, so I'm going to concentrate on the center of that and go ahead and press it down one more time. I broke both of my arms this last year, so it's a little hard to really press down with them still. But in the end, I'm able to do it. So I've already cut these out using the large banner die. There's 2 pieces to it, so I'll just tack this down with some glue, center it, and then begin to assemble the rest of the pieces. All of these pieces and more come with this large banner die. But I think that scalloped edge with the gingham background, I think is just adorable together. And I'll add that. Center that as well as I can. And this little scalloped edge can go all the way down on the bottom, that first layer of the banner, or I'm going to add it to this shorter, smaller layer, just to give it a little bit more depth and variation. See if I can't center it though. Okay. And then there's this other piece that comes with the banner die. And if I could think of the name of it, I would tell you what that is. It protects the hole, right? A reinforcement, that's what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna glue that down, and then I'm gonna use my Crop-A-Tile, because it's several layers of paper now, and I use a pretty heavyweight cardstock, so I'm gonna use my Crop-A-Tile to go through the whole thing. And then I can end up assembling my flowers. And when I can, when I'm placing my flowers, I try to keep everything in kind of groups of 3. They always say that your eye likes better when it can see odd numbers. So in nature, things are in 3s or 5s or 7s. So I'm trying to keep that in mind. For the most part, I'm able to do that on this. But, you know, I think it's just a suggestion. We don't have to follow every rule. And I'm adding my centers. And again, just playing around, trying to see where I think things will look right. And then I'll start to tack things down. That liquid glue will allow me some time to play around with the placement. And if I need to pull one up, I'm going to be able to. So now I will add the leaves. Again, pulling that little flower up and tucking that leaf behind it. And that one too. And this is really just playing around and seeing what you think looks the best to you. as I mentioned, there's 3 flowers. There's 3 of those leaves, and then I'll end up breaking the rule and only using 2. So I stamped this tag already. And I will link below what the name of that stamp is that I used. Also, gosh, can't remember it right now, but I will link to it below for sure. And one more, and then that should do it. And now I just need to add my twine. And so it doesn't get too tedious, I'm gonna leave you out of the part where I try to tie a bow. But I'm gonna tie a bow around the twine. And we'll just cut ahead to where the bow is done. Okay, and now I'm going to add some gemstones. I picked a pink color. Again, I'm going to do 3 in the end. I kind of played around with 5, but couldn't quite figure out where to place them down below. So I end up, as I said, just going with the 3. Always kind of in a triangular shape. Nope. So just the 3. I'm going to use some precision glue to tack those little goodies on. And one on the tag. And then one completing that triangle. And again, that is it. That is everything. I love how it turned out. I hope you'll give it a try. And if you do, please let me know. I hope you have a happy Mother's Day. Thanks so much for stopping by.